Don't forget to click like and subscribe to the Heavy Underground. The power of the skull compels you.
20 years ago, on the nights of April 22nd and 23rd, 1999, the chart-smashing thrash masters Metallica entered the Berkeley Community Theater alongside the San Francisco Orchestra to record their groundbreaking S&M collaboration. Released on November 23rd of the same year, the band played an additional 2 S&M shows to support this release on November 19th in Berlin, Germany, with the Berlin Symphony Orchestra, and November 22nd in New York City at Madison Square Garden with the Orchestra of St. Luke. For nearly 2 decades, these concerts have marked an iconic milestone for the band, and with a major 20th anniversary at hand, March 18, 2019 brought an announcement from the band and orchestra that they will celebrate this major event as well as the opening of San Francisco's latest faceless corporate arena by holding court for an unexpected redux of these historic concerts with the aptly named S&M2. Initially announced for September 6, 2019 as a one-night-only open-to-the-world event, a major online disruption with the brief fifth-member fan club ticket presale led to the announcement of a second, even more unexpected, fifth-member-only show on September 8th. Not wanting to miss the largest Metallica fan club gathering in history, I entered my name in the lottery to purchase tickets and was graciously afforded the opportunity to attend this monumental event. Arriving at the still-fresh Chase Center, a sea of Metallica fans anxiously waits for the moment the doors finally spring open. At the appointed hour, the staff opens the venue, and a mass of Metallica-crazy humanity begins to move indoors. A mad dash for any one of the multitudes of merchandise vendors evenly spaced around the arena's circumference ensues, as a long and winding line seems to stretch almost completely around the new arena, encompassing all of the merchandise stands on the main level. Having already paid a visit to the outside merch stand earlier in the afternoon and slowly making my way to my seat, the fresh and unspoiled interior of the arena makes an impression as an unhurried walk around finds the view of the stage near impeccable from every angle. Reaching my seat shortly before the show begins, the sold-out crowd continues to fill the faceless corporate center as the orchestra readies itself for the endeavor ahead. Despite what could be described as a perfect opportunity to mesh the band and orchestra on the ecstasy of gold, the symphony tackles the longtime show-opening masterpiece on their own. Played in by the symphony, the ecstasy of gold gets a powerful boost from the orchestra pushing to full force for a spine-tingling experience. As the excitement rises, San Francisco's musical finest build to a soul-stirring and definitive close as the members of Metallica take to the large circular stage to a thunderous welcome. As Edwin Outwater begins to draw the orchestra together to begin the first song, a slow and ominous tenor emerges from the stage. Where the band would normally launch into a high-octane blitzkrieg to open a normal show, the symphony initiates the harrowing descent into the clutches of the Malignant One with the Call of Cthulhu. Maestro Outwater guides the symphony to a roaring precipice before the mighty weight of Metallica powers into the fray. Sublimely shifting through the heaviest of dimensions, the symphony greatly bolsters the epic scope and weighted depth of Cthulhu as Rob's lurking bass hollows out a cavernous roar within the musical maelstrom. Each rising tide grows stronger and stronger as the performance overwhelms the crowd, drawing everyone deeper into Cthulhu's embrace. Leveling the audience with a symphonic flourish as the song draws to a close, the San Francisco Orchestra nearly overwhelms the band's own hefty drawdown, before all rise and fall with one final destructive flourish. With the eldritch behemoth laid to rest, the time-tested classic For Whom the Bell Tolls muscles to a start. With more than 17,000 voices at James's back, the night's fight for vocal supremacy has only just begun as this Ride the Lightning classic bounds into the San Francisco night. With the orchestra ringing the band and their enormous sound booming around the edges, Bells soars out with an added urgency. Bolstered by the orchestral boost, For Whom the Bell Tolls strikes a buoyant chord with the assembled faithful. In an excellent turnabout, Kirk's usual closing solo shriek is replaced by the symphony's own sophisticated drawdown to close out the number. This less bombastic ending allows the San Francisco Orchestra to lead a quiet opening sweep for the Death Magnetic opus The Day That Never Comes. With the promise of new songs joining the S&M repertoire, this emotional 2008 epic is a great choice to join the symphonic oeuvre, with the band and symphony working in unison to bolster James's powerful storytelling. Exquisite crowd participation provides another level to this latter-era song, and the Edwin Outwater-led symphony drapes the song in dramatic effect as the middle moments quickly shift into motion. A blazing solo from Kirk lays it down with explosive authority as the symphony charges all around the band as The Day That Never Comes bursts from the stage in a second-half flurry of frantic energy. Officially welcoming the crowd, James takes to the microphone to introduce the symphony and its outstanding conductor before bellowing the opening lines of The Memory Remains. The symphony dances around the edge as Memory saunters forth with its lilting power. Gracefully working through the arena, The Memory Remains elevates the crowd with a majestic close that has 17,000 plus members of the Metallica family more than adequately filling the shoes of the inimitable Mary Ann faithful. As the song winds to its close, the crowd is not quite ready to pack it in, as the Metallica family takes a moment or two to draw out the song's closing sing-along. The symphony does not quite know how to react as Lars relents and lets the crowd go on for an extra minute or two, ending with a rousing cheer from the crowd as Metallica and their symphonic accomplices carry on to the next song. Continuing with the emotive sonic narrative that began one song earlier on The Day That Never Comes, the 2016 track Confusion offers an appropriate coda to the visceral import of The Day That Never Comes, as the inclusion of these two modern-era Metallica tracks helps to etch a poignant statement through this amazing night. The symphony's shadowy accompaniment rises up with a bellowing brass section, pushing the music forward like a commanding war horn in a boisterous symphonic flourish. Moth into Flame follows Confusion, still keeping with the promise of more recent additions to the night's performance. The symphony threatens to take flight as the fleet and nimble rush of Moth into Flame blazes forward at a breakneck pace. Subtle runs from the symphony's outstanding musicians spill through the band's breakneck pace, gleefully accenting the song's twisting flow. Blurring into one glorious cacophony, Metallica and symphony swarm together into the song's final go-round. With a knowing chug, the symphony initiates the proceedings as the Outlaw Torn gets underway. As pangs of recognition ripple through the crowd, Maestro Lars Ulrich lays into his drums to get the song underway. One of, if not the definitive performances from the original S&M, The Outlaw Torn is an essential inclusion 20 years later. As the symphony pulls this monumental song forward, James's impassioned vocal has the enraptured crowd hanging on every note and word. An ecstatic revelation, Outlaw's coiling groove coyly ramps back up as the symphony supplies a deft fluidity to this outstanding song as this epic performance nears its end. The sheer power of the musicians on hand, combined with a crowd of devoted Metallica fans, propels The Outlaw Torn into a rarefied atmosphere. Originally written as one of two exclusive debuts for the original S&M in 1999, the sparsely played gem No Leaf Clover follows a massively epic throwdown on The Outlaw Torn. Getting underway with a delicate interplay between band and symphony, a careening mid-paced cadence erupts as No Leaf Clover fills the arena as intended, with the band and symphony locked in unison. Intimate reflections erupt into powerful expression as No Leaf Clover weaves its magic through the San Francisco night. A pleading vocal from James and another boisterous crowd response add to the song's awe-inspiring impact. The symphony leads the swelling tide as No Leaf Clover pulls to a close as the crowd roars its approval. Concluding the first set of the night with a trio of intensely epic cuts, the hardwired to self-destruct standout Halo on Fire is next in line for the symphonic shine. Proof positive that decades of Ennio Morricone's Ecstasy of Gold heralding the band's arrival has left an indelible mark on their musical DNA, Halo on Fire breaks free from the stage with cinematic fervor. The grand sonic vistas unfolding on this amazing song are only emboldened by the expressive contribution of the San Francisco Orchestra. A surging guitar run from Maestro Hammett ushers an introspective moment before the band and symphony raced into the sunset with the jubilant crowd hot on their heels. Leading off the second set with a little Lars babble, our favorite Danish diplomat welcomes the thousands of Fifth members in attendance from every corner of the world, having been loudly informed by security at the entrance that flags, banners, and signs of any kind were forbidden. An unsurprisingly large number of flags make an appearance all over the arena at this point of the evening. Following the introduction from Lars, a babble from Michael Tilson Thomas continues the dialogue. A hearty thank you, directed at the San Francisco Orchestra, follows for the guts and spirit to tackle the night's material before a brief primer on the early 1900s primitivism movement in classical music leads into the first major surprise of the evening. Introducing and conducting the first song of the second set, Maestro Tilson Thomas opens with a brief history of the Scythian culture that used to roam the plains of Central Asia and Eastern Europe. Mastery of horses, metal adornment, and tattoos mark this tribal culture and only bolster this ancient people's heavy metal credibility. Turning to Russian composer Sergei Prokofiev, Scythian Suite Opus 20, Movement 2, The Enemy God and the Dance of the Black Spirits, sets off like a massive army advancing on their foe. Not out of place in a Conan the Barbarian adventure, stoic assaults and frantic dashes break out from the ranks of musicians as the symphony flits to and fro in a primal and pulsing fury on this 1915 masterpiece. Striking action punches through in this tension-filled piece. An ecstatic musical dance appears mid-song before a quick and strident run builds to a close on this ecstatic piece. Following the close of Scythian Suite, the Tilson Babel advances onto a rival early 20th century musical school. The concept of futurism in classical music leads to the next song of the second set, Iron Foundry by Alexander Moselov. Boasting that Metallica offers a new lease to futurism with their involvement, Maestro Tilson Thomas welcomes Metallica back to the stage for another unprecedented performance. Once again, led by Michael Tilson Thomas, Iron Foundry sets to motion. A squeal and squall from Maestro Hammett inaugurates the song's unsettled throb. Horns blare in ornate dominance while discord and dissonance between the band and symphony poses some sonic strife. Metallica undergird the song with a grating and grinding, sludge-inflected churn, with the band surging and powering in support of the orchestra's mechanized thrum. The openness to such a striking collaboration must certainly show the unexpected influence that Metallica's outside-the-box alliance with the late, great Lou Reed has had on the band. A brief stop before the musical machine rolls forth in a series of harrowing mechanical descents as the amassed musicians squeal and squonk along in glorious agony. A forceful ending to Iron Foundry closes out this weighted collaboration. A quick shuffling on the stage finds the legendary frontman James Hetfield standing alone with Michael Tilson Thomas and the San Francisco Orchestra for another of the night's unique performances. This brief respite affords James a moment to steel his nerves for what is to come. Alone with his voice and nothing but a full orchestra to back him up, Maestro Hetfield pours his world-traveled soul into the microphone as an orchestral rendition of 2008's The Unforgiven 3 soars forth with a weathered brilliance. As the pleading tension swells on this affecting rendition of The Unforgiven 3, the expectation of Kirk's solo is more than compensated with a sorrowful spaghetti western flourish rising from the horn section. Drawing to a close, James's gruff power adds a world-weary heft to his delicate and pleading version of The Unforgiven 3 as a rousing cheer rises from the audience in thanks of their breathtaking performance. As James is rejoined by his brothers in the band, their acoustic accomplice, Avi Vinokur, joins them on stage for backing vocals. In another unexpected twist, the band readies for an acoustic interlude in the evening. Marking another symphonic debut, All Within My Hands opens with a delicate and innocuous rise from the San Francisco Orchestra. As the city's orchestral members fill the arena with their deep resonance, All Within My Hands skulks along with an insidious intent. Since its 2003 release, the transformation of this song has been fun to watch, as the band has only added to its depth and reach in the intervening years. From innocent pleadings to more nefarious purposes, All Within My Hands burns with smoldering intensity and unsettled passion as the band and symphony swell with power as a fleet-fingered solo from Kirk moves in to cut the tension. Like the acoustic version kicking around the past few years, with percussion and added string accompaniment on steroids, this version fully swells with the power of the symphony pushing out the boundaries of this devious track. In a surprising addition to the night's performance, a touching remembrance for the bell-bottomed rager himself, Cliff Burton, is next in the set. Taking a place of prominence on the stage, the principal bassist of the San Francisco Orchestra, Scott Pingle, readies himself with an electric upright bass and a full array of effect pedals at his feet. With the symphony's resident bass acolyte leading the way, Scott Pingle commands the stage to lend his considerable skill and ingenuity to Brother Burton's solo masterpiece, Anesthesia Pulling Teeth. With an electric hum, the flow of bowing bass emerges into the night as a languid call pours from the stage. After a sorrowful opening run, a familiar sway begins to emerge from Scott Pingle's hands and fingers. Soon enough, with the tap of a foot, a distorted roar calls out to the night sky. A heartrending tribute rises from the stage as Anesthesia is treated with the highest honor by Scott Pingle. As the song nears its distorted finality, a wellspring of emotion fills the Chase Center and reaches to the heavens as Lars takes to his kit for the song's final spree, closing this chilling performance with deft reverence to the late, great Cliff Burton. Roaring its overwhelming approval, the crowd celebrates this amazing tribute in jubilant celebration. As the post-anesthesia buzz continues to ripple through the audience, the strings begin to whisper as Kirk, with sitar in hand, properly ushers the next song forth. With little doubt, 1991's Wherever I May Roam pulses from the stage next. As an exotic sweep from the symphony splices through the song's opening moments, the rest of the band powers into Rome with confidence. Adding an extra sparkle to the song's street-worn crush, the symphony instills a fleeting motion amidst the song's hefty and hard-hitting riffs. Broadening the horizons of this world-traveled song, full-throated crowd participation from literally around the world only adds to the song's impact. A frantic climb towards the end finds the band and symphony in lockstep as this tried-and-true, road-tested classic comes to a close. Joined by Lars on added snare, the symphony begins a sparse yet poignant introduction to the 1988 classic One. The orchestra evokes a pointed military march and staccato gunfire with their powerfully evocative introduction as the song builds to its clean guitar open. One fully demonstrates Metallica's own cinematic influences being returned tenfold, and with engrossing aplomb by the late Michael Kamen's lush scoring work and the earth-shaking power of the San Francisco Orchestra. Sweeping piano weaves throughout, seeming to pay homage to their 2014 collaboration with Chinese pianist Lang Lang, most prominently during the harried midst of the song's second-half solo cavalcade. With the piano-led orchestra accenting Kirk's solo, the finale rush of energetic runs has the crowd fist-pumping and shouting in unison until the very end of One's harrowing journey. With a quick turnaround, a very brief hold only heightens the anticipation before the musical onslaught of Master of Puppets wills itself into existence. Sharp and pointed musical strikes from the symphony punctuate the fusillade of riffs as the crowd's combined might almost overwhelms the arena, but the combined strength of the band and the symphony is more than enough to meet their challenge. The orchestral uplift builds to a crushing swarm during the middle break before powering into the song's second-half rush as the band springs into action. The symphony dances around the incessant metal barrage as a touch of Ennio Morricone joins the song in its waning moments for an added cinematic flair. With Kirk's current intro soulfully opening the next song, Nothing Else Matters makes its unifying presence known. With the crowd swaying and singing along, the band's massive hit from 1992, Nothing Else Matters, proffers a lush, expansive, and epic moment for everyone in attendance. Proving that heavy does not always mean distortion and noise, Nothing Else Matters conveys a universal heaviness, with the band and orchestra roaring forth like a delicate roll of thunder. With everyone singing in unison to this timeless metal campfire sing-along, the power of the moment is overwhelming and transformative as band, fan, and symphony join together with purpose. Always a fan of the elevator version of Nothing Else Matters, to hear this timeless classic with the symphony in full effect was an amazing experience to behold. A brief moment follows the end of Nothing Else Matters as the band and symphony get set for the final song of the night. With only one major song going unheard thus far, Enter Sandman is the obvious choice to bring the night to a rousing close. In short order, Enter Sandman jumps off. Love, hate, or tolerate, everyone knows this song, and the fifth member audience is especially loud and boisterous for this time-tested crowd pleaser, as the band settles in for a rousing romp with the San Francisco Orchestra hitting on all cylinders. Boasting the loudest and most vociferous crowd reaction of the night, Enter Sandman is further buoyed by the strong push and pull dynamic emanating from the symphony's capable ranks. Soon, the musicians on stage double down as Enter Sandman thunders like a giant beating heart towards its close. Joined by Michael Tilson Thomas on keyboard, the song's extended outro riffs through a frayed ends of sanity tease before bringing the song, set, and show to an excited end. With the crowd roaring its approval, the members of the San Francisco Orchestra and the almighty Metallica take their bow, and after a heartfelt thank you from the band, James, Lars, Kirk, and Rob take their leave and bring the amazing weekend to a close. Taking the lead to open the night, the San Francisco Symphony heralds the arrival of our Horsemen in Black with a brilliant run-through of the band's traditional introduction and Ennio Morricone's The Ecstasy of Gold. Settling into an old-school push, the original Michael Kamen orchestration provides the added level of bombast and explosiveness to S&M holdovers The Call of Cthulhu and For Whom the Bell Tolls, as the first set powers to life. New additions from the intervening years, such as The Day That Never Comes, Confusion, and Moth into Flame, are provided the cinematic flourish to push them over the edge, as these selections perfectly represent the band's evolving sense of texture and nuance since the original S&M in 1999. Offering an unforgettable touchstone in the midst of this recent era run of songs, another 1999 holdover, The Memory Remains, swings into the San Francisco night to fully energize the crowd for an extended sing-along. An emotional centerpiece whenever it gets the nod, The Outlaw Torn commences a commanding trio of songs to close the first set. S&M1 original No Leaf Clover enjoins the crowd in another vibrant sing-along before an intensely evocative presentation of 2016's Halo on Fire confers true epic status on this latter-day classic with an impassioned performance. Opening the second set with a cleverly embedded history lesson, Lars invites the symphony's retiring musical director Michael Tilson Thomas for a world-famous Lars Babble. Drawing on the history of classical music for its wide-ranging influence, primitivism and futurism are highlighted with a pair of compositions, Scythian Suite by Sergei Prokofiev and Iron Foundry by Alexander Moselov, led by the symphony to open the second set. Delving into the ancient past on Scythian Suite, the orchestra delivers a thundering performance by themselves before being rejoined by Metallica for a grinding good time on Iron Foundry's factory-bred clang. James confronts the symphony solo for a stirring rendition of the Unforgiven 3 before the reworked acoustic version of All Within My Hands creeps into the night with an insidious shadow. The orchestra's bass maestro, Scott Pingle, pays the ultimate tribute to the band's lost member Cliff Burton with a jaw-dropping version of Anesthesia Pulling Teeth played on an electric upright bass. A blitzkrieg run-through of Wherever I May Roam, One, and Master of Puppets follows, with some updated orchestration providing an updated flourish to the proceedings. From the piano cascade in the closing moments of One to the mournful spaghetti western horns in Master of Puppets, these new touches deftly expand the band's palette and show a clear influence from their recent history. The closing 1-2 punch of Nothing Else Matters and Enter Sandman, while 100% expected, allows the band and crowd to enjoy one last moment together before the show comes to an end. Closing out an unbelievable night, every single Metallica album found itself represented, and a number of unexpected surprises added incredible depth and breadth to the night's performance. From time-tested classics and modern Metallica epics to an intriguing synthesis of classical compositions and metallic heft, the night's performance, strengthened by the grand cinematic bombast of Michael Kamen's original scoring work and Michael Tilson Thomas's nuanced modern flourishes, both band and orchestra leave an unforgettable impression on the over 17,000 in attendance. A powerful night of forward-thinking musical collaboration, Night 2 of Metallica and the San Francisco Orchestra's special S&M2 celebration will never be forgotten. Slowly making their way to the San Francisco night, the Metallica faithful congregate in front of the Chase Center to revel in the experience. From across the nation and across the globe, dozens of nations join in a massive love fest of hugs, handshakes, chants, and song. Gathering as many of the herd as possible, a massive fan club photo shoot takes place on the ornate stair installation outside the center. Fan club chapter flags from around the globe are unfurled in an international display of Metallica solidarity, and with no pressure from cleanup crews and security, the massive fifth-member assembly is left to revel in the post-show elation, celebrating together to end the weekend on an unabashed high.